The last 12 months have been extremely successful for Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson. Johnson has become only the 5th player in history to spend an entire year as the world's #1 ranked player, thanks to 5 wins on the PGA Tour. Whilst Koepka became a major champion, following in DJ's footsteps by winning his maiden title at the US Open in June. Golfing World caught up with a man who plays a pivotal role in the camps of both players, their coach, Claude Harmon III.
I think the one thing, with DJ's personality that people, that follow golf don't get an opportunity to see is he's, because of his kind of nonchalant, nothing bothers him and it doesn't really seem like he's got a pulse sometimes. He's probably one of the most competitive people I've ever met. And the fire that he has, the competitive fire to be the best, when he got to #1 in the world, we talked about it as people on his team. He said, listen, I want to stay here for as long as possible. And I think that was the frustrating thing last year when he got injured at Augusta. He was ready to kind of really put his foot down and kind of, put some distance between himself and everybody else in that #1 world ranking. And I think, how difficult the season was for him last year to win late and then to get off to a fantastic start again this year. I think when he plays like he's playing, he's as tough as anybody is to beat. He's like Rory, he's like Jordan Spieth. He's one of those guys that when they're on their game, they make the golf courses and they make golf look easy. And, I think it's a big goal of his to try and stay #1 as long as possible. And I think anybody that gets to that kind of rarefied position to get to the top, it's pretty special, and everybody looks at you differently. And to be announced every week as the #1 player in the world, I think it means a lot. There are not that many people in the world that have had that, and the guys that have had it, if you look at what Rory's trying to do, if you look at what Jordan's trying to do, Jason Day, they want to get that world #1 back, and I think, DJ wants to keep it as much as anybody.
One player now in that chasing pack is Brooks Koepka after his impressive maiden major triumph last year at the US Open. Koepka was already a rising star in the game, but catapulted himself into the big league with a 4-stroke victory at Erin Hills. He finished on an incredible 16 under par, the joint lowest ever score to win the US Open. Harmon recalls the advice he gave to the American before he went out on the Sunday in the penultimate group.
I was constantly in the back of my head listening to my father saying, don't mess this up. Because I think sometimes, there are weeks where you just kind of need to get out of the way. And, DJ had won the US Open the year before, and that week, that whole week he was just kind of different. I was, lucky enough to be on Ernie's team when he won it at Lytham and won the Open Championship in 2012. And he was different that week. Somehow they show up in a different frame of mind, and a lot of it is they have a calmness about them all week. I can't really explain it, and I've been trying to over the last year to try and figure out what it is that's different. But, Brooks was just different. He came in with a lot of confidence. He got off to a fantastic start. It was a golf course that he liked. It's funny, I said the exact same thing on Monday after Brooks's practice round that I said the year before with DJ. I was talking to my dad, and I was saying, if he doesn't have a chance to win this week, I give up. I don't know what playing good is, because he was hitting it so good. And, on Sunday, we really didn't talk that much, and I just told him the same thing I always tell him, just go out, stay aggressive. And I just had a feeling that if he could go out and stay aggressive and play the way he normally does, and not try and play the way that he thinks he needs to win a major championship. Because I think we see that a lot. I think Ricky's kind of going through that right now as well. I think Ricky has put himself in positions, and I think the one thing that will help Ricky break through and get that elusive major championship that I think both he thinks he has and everybody else is to play like he normally does. Because I think it's so difficult to win these major championships that you feel like sometimes as a player you've got to try and do all the right things and try and play a specific way. And I think Brooks was a great example. He just did what he did. He hammered the golf course with his driver, took advantage of it, and the last thing I told him was just go out, stay aggressive. If you play aggressive today, you're going to be tough to beat.